Wait,
some
which
of
one?
the
Well, because
Wait.
instances
When-
where
I'll take one of those too. Thank
This is that report that will explain why we even did it. What's going on here? Wait, these didn't staple.
some of them are.
Thanks
stapled.
for all the work that went into
Stapled ones
this.
can go to our
just
esteemed
wanna
board
make sure
members.
that-
Well, we have
I
more
can
than
have
enough.
an
It's
unstapled
just
one.
trying to figure out what happened here.
I know, but something's not right.
Something's not right. Let's start over here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Allison, we
like
have
this
water.
one's not complete.
Please. Do we have it here with us, or? What do you do? I can, that one's check it visually too.
Yeah, it's not stapled correctly.
And then there were random changes that were just here. That got me confused. Oh, they're right here. That's why. Okay, here we go.
Good.
You have 2 kids?
Take one and pass it on.
4 kids, oh my gosh. So 2 of the 4 are married now, or do you have?
you. 2 of the 4.
Okay.
You have 4? I have 4. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, 3 boys and a
Have
girl.
fun and expensive.
Yeah.
He needs to bring some down. Oh, you got it.
This is getting better.
Yes. That was very funny.
A lot going on there.
Oh, she's so beautiful. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Is that
Father of the bride,
Terrible.
the one and only time.
It's terrible. Just
3
for-
boys and 1 girl?
Yeah,
Oh, no wonder you were.
yeah,
Is
terrible.
that this past weekend?
That was, it was 2.5 weeks ago.
Wow.
That was the whole
Where was the
taking your
wedding?
daughter down the aisle thing.
Yeah.
Way harder than it looks.
Waterworks.
Terrible.
Oh.
Absolutely terrible.
Really? My dad didn't have any problem.
No, my dad was like.
Either time. I think he like shoved me. See ya.
Oh, I
Where was the
My dad
wedding?
had 3, so.
So the wedding was, you know on Prince Street, that chapel on Prince Street, so I own that chapel, so she got married there. And then the reception was at Oak Hill.
Nice.
Oh,
Must have been beautiful.
It was nice, yeah. I told the pastor, I said, look, don't ask me who gives this woman. When I bring her up, don't say anything. Nothing. I said, I'm gonna put her hand, I'm gonna sit down. I said, that's it. If you ask me who gives this woman, I'm gonna say, not me. I said, so don't ask.
Don't ask. You're
I
gonna
love
start
this whole
crying
wedding.
anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's hard, I'm sure.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Did you get out on the dance floor with her? And
Yeah, that was even worse.
that was probably harder.
What was
That
your
was,
song?
that was worse.
I bet.
Oh my God, terrible.
You guys have a song?
I had all the pictures. I have a hanky in my face. Like,
Oh.
every picture's a picture of me like this. Terrible.
Okay, so should we start?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so I'll call the meeting to order and I'll ask, oh, thank you very much, for approval of the minutes from August
thank you so
16,
much. 2022.
Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Joe. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Troy. Any other additions, corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we're gonna move right into the project status report.
Yes.
And Robin is going to explain what this is and highlight certain
Yes.
projects. And on this particular discussion, no action is needed.
Right, this is a relatively new requirement by the state on us, and it's called an assessment of the progress of each active project. Assessments should be conducted annually and maintained on the website for 3 to 5 years. So that's all the guidance we have on it, so
And
this
that's
is,
this.
yes, this is what we came up with to be our assessment of report
Sure.
on our
Terrific.
project.
Makes sense.
Admitting that it's kind of a work in progress and we might tweak it next year if we're kind of like, wait. So what we did is we have, we identify everything by project code, the project type, whether it's a pilot, lease, or a sales tax only project. Oh, I grabbed the one with the. And then the project name, and then we did construction status. So obviously the older projects are gonna be all done, and then just the more recent approved approvals will be whether it's under construction or complete. And then we have FTEs compliant, and we broke that down to like a yes or a no, or a not applicable, meaning like the choice program, which are the housing projects where there's no job creation requirement on those. So, and then anywhere there's a no, those are all the projects that have applied for a waiver today. And then what we didn't do that I want to do a better job of next year is highlighting projects that have exceeded their job creation requirement. So like I was trying to do that really quickly this afternoon, and I can point out a couple, but I think next year we'll focus on that a little more as well to make sure that.
Focus on what?
On highlighting projects that have exceeded their job creation requirement.
Oh,
A positive, like we didn't
Right.
focus on that, and that's on us for not doing that yet, but that'll be a next year focus that we'll focus on.
So, but if they didn't ask for a waiver, what's the?
Then they're compliant, but we wanna call out ones that have
We have
gone
a
above
lot
and
of
beyond.
companies that were required to create one job, and they've got 50. And so we want to make sure that in addition to part of the compliance packet, which is looking at projects that are short on jobs, that we celebrate those companies that are far exceeding their requirements.
But for those that have asked for a waiver, that doesn't include those who've not met their commitment yet. And so do we have others who've not met their commitment and they're not asking for a waiver?
No,
No.
everyone who has not met their commitment is asking for a waiver.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yes,
and they've written us
Mhm.
stories.
That's
about
what's, yeah.
what they've been trying to
Yep.
accomplish.
yep. Then, yeah, do you have a question?
Well, I'm just starting right at the top, right?
Yep.
384 East Ave, reported 0.
Right.
Is that not open?
It, as of 12/31/22, it was not
Okay.
open.
This is 22.
Yes, it is now, as we know.
Okay, thank you. So, do we have an update to the numbers? Like a
When we go
snapshot?
through each project, some of them will tell us where they are today, so we can see what the future looks like, and it'll be in there, yeah, when we'll get to that.
Is that the reported number?
I'm sorry?
Is that the reported number? You've got
The report- no,
reported
the
and-
No, because that's
That's
a snapshot in
different,
time
yeah.
of 12/31/22. We're now
Right.
8 months later.
Sure.
So some of them will already be able to tell a more positive story.
I see. Well, should we just go through, do we want to? Just
So
go through each
Robin's just
one?
running through this project status sheet first before we get into the weeds on the waivers. This is just a general overview of what we have to produce now to
Right.
meet yet another state requirement.
Okay.
And so we'll finish
Yeah.
this and then move on to
Yeah.
next things.
Just really, and then the next column's a pilot end date. That's also another new requirement the state has put on IDAs, in that we have to reach out to every municipality that has a project with a pilot in it, and the pilot is expiring within 2 years.
Hmm.
And we have to tell them
Interesting.
that it's expiring within 2 years.
Right,
So-
sort of like their last chance.
Well,
Well-
to alert the municipalities that those projects will start moving back on to the taxable rolls.
Mhm.
So where that becomes a little tricky for us is that COMIDA does not do its own billing. So we've had, this pilot end date column is actually a lot of work to ascertain. We have to look at every pilot bill that goes out on every project to figure out where they are in the abatement schedule, because most of them predate, well, all of the pilots that are expiring predate this group of people.
So what's interesting is that we're now told we have to tell the municipalities when they really have that information more up
They
to
have
date
that
than we do.
information. So it's a good exercise to make
Yeah.
sure that our records are consistent with the host municipalities in all 19 towns.
That makes sense.
A little bit painful.
Well, it was painful this year. It'll get better.
Yeah, you're setting up the process
Yeah.
for all that this year.
Yeah, yeah. And then we did a project description on what the project is, and so this is what we're calling our project report.
And it'll be posted to our website, and that way, fully compliant.
Yep.
And the no's, all the no's are, there's
Appear
waivers-
later in the
Yep.
packet.
Waivers pending.
Yep.
I don't know, any unusual, I guess where there's a large disparity, the ones that are quite close, you know, Shortino Properties, they're off by a considerable amount. Clinton Court is off by a whole ton.
Yeah.
455 reported, actually is pretty good, but that's 715 that's required.
Yeah, when we get into the agenda item for job compliance, we can talk more about, you know, the
Yeah,
reasons
each one
and the
has
delta
specific
and
issues.
what the reasons are behind that.
But there weren't any that just jumped right out at you as,
I think
who
they're,
are you kidding?
no, because they're companies
No.
that we've seen before.
Same old,
Yeah,
same old.
I think actually on the next item, there's one that we'll talk about. It's a little bit shocking on sales tax,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm calculating 803 jobs just on the waiver list.
are there? I haven't done the total.
I didn't either.
Looks like the majority of that is the Clinton Court across from right?
Well, there's 300 over at Legacy Tower,
Yeah.
260.
Yeah, that one's a big one.
Erie Station.
It's e-health.
And, well, and PGH.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
wanna
we'll have to
have
talk about
a,
that.
we'll have, let's get through sales tax and unpaid pilots and then we'll jump into those. Those are easier items.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just sticking to the list.
No, I know. Wait, but you skipped 2 things off.
Yeah,
3 and
I
4.
know.
5 and 6.
I know, we
Maybe
were right
plus
for that.
8 more.
So why don't we get through the easier stuff?
Yeah, that's sales
Easier
tax
stuff,
and
yeah.
unpaid pilots.
So
are
the next
easier.
report on page 9 is the sales tax recapture report, and these are projects that exceeded the dollar amount they were approved for their sales tax exemption. And, the state makes it the IDA's responsibility to seek recapture of that. So we do, and these are the ones that exceeded in 2022. We've got 3 out of the 4 checks back in and sent to New York State, and the last one is the USRE Rochester project, and I am in constant communication with them. They are just, working out logistics on repayment. So at this time, we're not asking for any action, this is just kind of, we're just letting you know, this is what happened.
So these are all overages.
Yes.
Wonder why.
Many different reasons. It could be like, you know, the GC wasn't keeping track, or,
Yeah,
you know,
it's-
they don't realize it. And a lot of times we get, oh wait, you know, we just realized it. Can we apply for it to be retroactive? And we're like,
Yeah,
sorry.
it-
doesn't
it's
work
probably a
like that.
combination of increasing costs, poor planning,
Right, right.
and I would say the latter probably more than the first, and they probably blame the
Right.
first on a lot of it. And then some things just are unexpected. I
Yeah.
mean, it just happens. You start in the middle of a construction project and you find something that doesn't work, that was on the print, and you gotta adjust, so that happens.
And the companies are always good about paying it back. It goes right, so what happens is the check comes to us and then we remit it to New York State Department of Tax and Finance.
So we have to submit it with a form.
So it gets paid back and, you know, 4 out of however many active projects. Doesn't happen that often.
You're right.
Pretty
And if-
small
Not
number.
a whole lot of them.
But to your point, Joe, if they know ahead of time.
Right.
They
They
can
can apply for an
apply for
increase.
an
They can apply-
increase.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, they're just unorganized.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down
Yeah.
to.
Okay.
The next one, well, it's a little more, the next report's a little more tricky on the unpaid pilots. You may remember most of these companies from last year.
Smaller list, though.
Smaller list, though. The 2 that are both on the city and the county, the QP and the WBS, we are actively engaged in conversations with the city on both of those projects. The QP LLC, that's a choice program. I know delinquent every year, but also makes some sort of payment every year, so we're just.
Do we get an
Kinda
update on
kicking the
their
can down the road.
progress with each one? The choice, do we get an update from the city or anybody on this?
On their payments? Or-
Yeah,
Well, we
whether,
s-
if it's the city, that's their own specific.
So, for the choice program, I will say this, the city actively monitors.
Yes.
Those.
Okay, they do,
And
but they don't report to us.
they do not. So we hear from the city, they're all over
They're
that
making sure they
program.
are owner occupied and not used as
Well, that's good.
Airbnb.
Yeah, and you may
Okay.
recall, like, we've had compliance issues come before us from choice.
Right.
And it's been things that the city have noticed. They actively monitor rental
Okay.
sites and things of that nature to make sure
Okay.
those projects stay in compliance.
Great.
So, Robin, I wanna make sure I understand it. So, WBS, so
Mm-hmm.
billing is 23,000. August balance is more than that.
included
Interest.
penalties
And
or
that's
late
penalties,
fees.
interest, late fees, the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yep.
Yep.
So, I guess my question is, at what point do we say,
Mhm.
we're not gonna kick this can down the road anymore, we need to address it? Cause
Mm-hmm.
I'm perfectly okay with giving people time, as long
Yeah.
as there's a plan, right? We're gonna,
Mm-hmm.
you can go here, but when you get to here, here's a result. Like, people just showing up on the sheet and us doing nothing and not having a plan, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
That's for 4 years.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that we are actively talking to the city about and determining what, as a collective group,
What can we do?
what do we need to do
Yeah,
here?
can we lien the property? Can we put
So
it?
this is the issue,
Termination of the
because with a
pilot.
pilot agreement, the tax liens are not accruing. They're contractual payments that are accruing. So in instances like this, and we've had these in the past, we say to the city, would you like us to get out of this picture so you can get tax liens accruing? And they've wanted us to do that. There is some merit to this project. They have, this particular facility was used as a vaccination site, so, and I think they also allow the police training
Yeah.
jobs to go train there. So there's value in the city to the facility, but it is getting to the point though that this doesn't make sense.
Right,
So we've
right.
had some meetings, we'll have more, we're figuring out what to do.
Yeah, I just think we need to have some kind of plan for closure, you know?
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be today, but eventually,
Right.
right?
Oh, absolutely. I can tell you the one above it, the QP, that 2023 is the last year of the pilot.
Yeah, so we won't see them anymore.
Who is Spencerport Investors?
Well, it's sold.
I know, it's a plaza out in Spencerport.
Who was
Um,
it? Do you remember who?
It was it was started,
Was it originally Bob Morgan?
I think it was Morgan.
It was originally Bob Morgan.
Yeah, I thought Bob and Angie Ingrassi owned it, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, and then it was sold to someone out of California, and then it just sold again earlier this year to someone else. This is the last year of the pilot, 2023. They were always on a payment schedule. They were never paying in full. They had worked it out with the municipalities. They were, I don't know if
Like
it was quarterly,
installments?
yeah. And I know I've actually reached out to the assessor to find, because I thought they were all set, because I actually personally sent them their pilot bill to the new owner, because he wanted to get square, and I didn't realize it wasn't paid.
Which plaza is it? In
It's,
Spencerport?
I think it's the big one where Tops used to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
If
think
I'm
they're
not
still there.
mistaken, right?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. It's
There's
the
not
old
too
town
many-
plaza.
More out
Not
there.
too many, but that Tops is still hanging in there, yeah.
You
Yeah.
got the Tops and Route 31, it's the only
Yeah.
two places, right?
Yeah. And this Nissan dealership is saying they mailed it to the wrong address?
That's always been, that's a runner.
Yeah,
Got
those,
lost in the
those,
mail.
they sell a lot. They
National
change
REITs come in and
owners.
buy
Yeah.
these. And so it's always a
Buy
gate.
the real property?
By the dealership.
Dealerships.
Well, so it wouldn't be a REIT. Not a,
Yeah. Okay.
and then the last one on the list of the city there, Franklin Bevier, that you may recall, there's a dispute over the calculation of the pilot payments. It is in a lawsuit. The lawsuit is coming to a settlement, and the settlement dictates some amendments to the pilot agreement. So I think once all parties to the lawsuit sign, we'll have that before us. It will require board approval to amend the pilot to be consistent with the settlement.
I got a question for you. Back to that Nissan dealership.
Mhm.
Do you have a contact there, or is it, are you getting the runaround, or are they?
No.
Do they respond to
No, it was
you?
just, they will. They will. It was just, they were on the list, so the county sends their pilot bills out in January. and they're due February
Like 11th or
11th or
something.
something like that. And then come like March, April is when I say, okay, send me your list. And then they're sending out monthly bills up until about June, when then we take over and we're like, okay, and that's not written in stone, that's just kind of how we've done it.
Right.
Where we're like, okay, we're gonna now send a
Demand.
letter from COMIDA, and then we go from there. So there was the bills were being sent, it was, if you look on like the real property portal, it says the new owner's in Florida now. So the bill was not going going local,
Okay.
but it was the wrong address, and the new address
Yeah.
bill has been sent out as of recently.
Yeah, that's a profitable store. There's no,
Yeah, I think it was just billing
Yeah.
errors.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, now we can get into the meat and potatoes.
Okay, how do we wanna do this? We wanna start with the waiver request, cause those are the ones that are behind, and
We can just go
they've-
one by
they've
one.
asked for the waiver.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And in many cases, they've sent us a letter and explained where
Mhm.
they were. Are any of those, do they jump out at you as being an unreasonable? Or they're always asking for waivers and they don't seem to be making any headway in terms of the number of reported jobs?
I think we just take them one by one.
Yeah.
I will say,
Okay.
staff and myself, I don't think we see any that cause us to raise red flags, but that said, our committee, and we want to bring people in, so if there's a report here that, or a waiver request that
Yeah.
it is.
That's been hanging around forever.
So, I'm not comfortable giving them
I
another.
don't.
I mean, that's
me
been
either.
going on.
Yeah.
They put another restaurant in there, then that restaurant went belly up.
Yeah.
So it is occupied today,
It's, well, the restaurant closed.
right, but there's an event business in there now.
And have they assumed obligations?
So they got a new tenant, and that tenant currently has 8 FTEs. But we can certainly bring in, the applicant owner for further discussion.
Well, I'm getting confused here. So these are waivers that we're giving for what has happened.
Yes.
2022.
Right?
Yes.
2022.
Yes,
Not what is happening.
current, right.
So without that information, it's kind of tough to say yes or no. So the year of 2022, there was 0 employees over there.
Yep.
Why we were rewarding positive, negative behavior when this isn't positive at all? 0 employees.
So the idea has always been that we take a look, we look at the rationale, and if they, and you'll see applicants tell us they're doing their best, and
Well, and like, you pay people, they'll come to work, okay? And that's probably the issue here, is they're still using their theory of, I can get people to come in here for minimum wage and work off of tips.
Yeah.
That's changed, and we're still, I think this is the 3rd time, Ann, if I'm not mistaken,
least.
isn't this the 3rd
Yeah,
time that
at
we've
least.
addressed
Yes.
this?
Every
And
year
we've
that I've
given
been in
them-
this job, it's been on our list.
And it was COVID, we get to COVID, but right now, it's like,
So the landlord can't find a good tenant, is basically
Yeah.
what this is.
So, here's,
okay.
the rub to me is this. So, and the only reason I know is because they tried to sell me the building. So I knew what the leases look like, right?
Okay.
So Spalletta and a couple other guys were on the lease. They were paying good money. So, and the rent was continuing to get paid. And then they brought in another restaurateur, the Mexican restaurant. It was the same group of guys. They just brought in another operator, and that didn't work. But that building collects heavy rent, and I can't see giving waivers when there's no jobs during that period. It just makes no sense to me. So what Troy just said, I couldn't agree more. You need to figure it out to get the jobs in the building if you want this. If you can't, then we're going to Plan B. That's just how I look at it.
So is there a pilot on here?
Yes,
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah.
How many years are we into this?
Oh,
It's,
what
11.
year is it?
11.
Oh,
On a
wait.
15-year pilot?
Is that a
Oh, wait,
special
wait,
pilot?
We
hold
have
on.
that
We
information.
can tell you on this report, hold on.
Because there's already been.
2026 it ends.
2026.
Yeah.
So there's 3 years left, and we're on the 11th year?
It's a 10-year pilot, so the pilots would sometimes delay in kicking in until construction was complete, so that's probably what happened here.
So basically, he's received a benefit for the last 3 times we've addressed this, and we've allowed for it to go on in
Why do
hopes
we?
that our fingers crossed.
That's correct.
I think 3 strikes were out.
And collected good rent.
Yeah, I mean, we worked with you for three
Yeah.
conversations.
He's a good developer. There's
Do
no
you-
question, but
Do we want to bring him in for a conversation, or are you ready to make a recommendation to the board to terminate?
I don't see why we've already bent over for 3.
yeah,
Yeah, what's there to
I
talk about?
agree. And if he's
Right.
gonna come in, the year's gone already. The time's gone. There was no jobs
We
there.
can't get that back.
Right.
And I don't think it's diligent to give them more leash. I mean,
Yep, so what I'll do with that is I'm gonna go, if there's that sort of recommendation, I'm gonna look at the pilot agreement, look at the language. It might reset to a less advantageous benefit, so I'll make a determination of whether it's a recapture situation or a termination situation, and we'll go from there.
That's fine.
could we have the 2021 and 2020, was it reported 0 those 2 years also?
Right.
So we're at a steady 0. I mean, that's not.
And I think us as a board collectively, we can't continue to hold rubber stamp. We don't want people thinking that. We want them to know if they come in front of us and
There's accountability.
they get benefits, they're accountable for those benefits. And they need to do what they say they're gonna do.
Okay, so
So
I
all
will.
the waiver requests that are on this list, they've asked for? Or
So
we're
every
proposing to give them a
no,
waiver?
every
They have to ask
project
for
that
it,
is
right?
short of jobs is asked to submit a request for a waiver if they so desire, and they all did. We don't have any company
Okay.
short on jobs who did not submit for a waiver.
All right, so seems like a good follow-up.
Mhm,
For
mhm.
the loan. What's his first name? Frank?
John.
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 Mhm.
Okay. Pier Point Properties. That's a 10 job shortfall. Pontarelli.
So is it Pure Point, is that the
14.
first time they've been on it?
No.
No. And this is the daycare, right?
Mhm.
It's the daycare.
Really?
Is there room here to do anything where we can indicate, like, next year, how many years any of these requests have been, like, repeat, not to say repeat offenders, but,
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe
The,
go
the
past
last
one,
column
past two,
indicates
right?
yes,
Yeah.
and Robin
Oh,
has the
past waiver,
backup
yes,
of
yes,
how
yes.
many times.
Mhm, yeah, I think that'd be helpful, so if it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think we usually look at these two and see where there's a larger variance. Okay, and there's a good argument behind it, we'll stand behind them and grant the waiver. But the larger ones like Legacy Tower, you keep saying you wanna talk about each one. You wanna call someone out as, they're 10 under, but here's understands what they're doing.
Right.
Governance is supposed to be governing,
Yes.
5 minutes ago. So, how should we proceed with this?
Well, we can start moving through them. So Pierpont, as you can see, it's a daycare. They're short-time jobs. They have been on our list in the past.
How many years?
Well, it was during COVID, so when daycare and people worked out at home.
I have
they
21.
weren't sending them to daycare, and I'm gonna assume people that are still able to
Yeah.
work from home and
Yeah.
cut back and they haven't had the staff. But that was,
That makes
that's why I've
sense.
seen, like, I get the 22, but to or is that right now?
22.
Okay, so right now they have a shortfall of an estimated,
As of 22, they had that shortfall. So like Pierpont, they're short 10 as of
no, I
12/31/22.
understand, but
Yeah.
just to expedite here, so,
Yep.
you know, we're looking at that bigger numbers, the 260 on their
Yeah.
shortfall. Is that number now 100? Or is it 150, or is it 200? Is there movement from the
Or
455?
if they were on here in 21, what was the number in 21?
Mhm.
Right, I think that'll help us, Ann, you know what I mean? So then,
Right.
then we could say, are they going in the right direction?
Right.
Okay.
And how long has it been here? That'll
Right.
help us to make better
So
decisions.
do you wanna pause this meeting and then we can redo our charts and everything and get you the historical data?
I'm okay with that.
For the decision, to make a decision, I think it would help.
To see trends.
Well, because Legacy has not had a waiver, this is their first one
Mm-hmm.
on this project. But if that 455 has moved
Is growing.
at a pretty, you know, something a little bit,
So they say they've signed one new lease, didn't tell us anything about it specifically. So you want to see past information and then
And
to
see if there's any
date,
positive
Progress.
to
trend.
date information.
Progress.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
you
there-
wanna
is there
see
an effort being
21,
made? Yeah.
right? We have 22, and what's
Yep.
year-to-date look like?
Okay.
And then, and that gives us a full picture of where we
Okay.
are.
Are there any here that maybe have some smaller shortfalls? For instance, the fifth project down is short 3, the
Yeah, the
marketplace.
marketplace.
Do we want to dispense with some of these smaller ones or just pause the whole thing?
Yes,
Well, 3
that might
short
make
on
sense,
100,
right? If
yeah.
they're 2, 3, 4, 5.
pretty short, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you gotta look at it like a percentage, so I
Yeah.
agree. 3 out of 100 is fine, you know, at least, I
Okay.
mean, that's within margin of error.
The marketplace is,
4 tech with 5 short.
Yeah, out of 90, 95, I would probably grant it to them.
They have a very good explanation as well.
You know, when you're 3 short, when you're 2 short out of 3,
how about 5 or less? Does that make sense?
well, I think you gotta look at it like a
If they're
percentage.
growing.
Right.
You know what I mean, like Roxbury, and see, they're required 3, they're 2 short, you know what I mean? But you're only requiring 3.
Right.
They're really redoing their, you know, how they're going to be managing that facility, and I think.
That's the dome.
And they're
Yeah.
gonna go into.
Pickleball, baby.
Pickleball.
So you know that's gonna go crazy.
Is that what they're gonna make it a
Yes,
pickleball?
yeah.
Yes.
The whole thing, the largest in the country or
Big
something.
business.
So here's one that I think gives a good snapshot. They're short 4, they're supposed to have 14, they have 10, and they tell us, and, you know, they've gained 1 since the end of 22. So they're trending, they're having trouble finding good diesel mechanics. And they give offer letters and they stay. So, you know, there's another one with not a big number of jobs, but I think they're showing a positive trend.
How about
I think obviously if you get the rest of the
Yeah.
information, then
Okay.
Like Erie Station 30, that was, the building is empty, it's a Konar-owned building, and View Station is moving into it. It's currently under construction, like there will be.
Years that they get, it's just Erie, 30.
2020 and 2021.
So there's 3 years of.
I think they actually
No
get the
movement.
jobs mid-year, and then there's tenant shuffling, so by the time we survey them, it's kind of a
First.
bad luck on that
I know.
one, but,
Well, I'm just saying,
yeah.
we started right off with 0 out of 10.
Yeah.
Now we're 0 out of 6,
Yeah.
and it's now this is the 3rd year.
So it sounds like of these, the committee is in a position to recommend waivers for the marketplace, Fortech, and 1005 Mount Reed. The rest we're gonna table. for
Say it again, the marketplace?
The marketplace, Fortech, and 1005 Mount Reed.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then the rest we'll have additional information on. So for purposes of the board meeting, it's recommending 3 waivers, and we'll need to schedule another compliance committee to take a look at the rest of them.
Sure.
I think it'd be very helpful. Sort of
And this is-
in the
this is-
blind a little bit on
Yeah,
some of
this
these.
is helpful for us too.
Yeah.
It's a
knowing-
long list, a longer list than I recall seeing in the past.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
But I think if you make these changes, Robin, in the future, when we get together, you can make an educated decision.
Right.
And you'll go through it a lot quicker. Instead
Yeah.
of you trying to explain each, I mean, it's just there, you know? And I would also put, if you have room, maybe just a little column that says an explanation, do they have one or do they not? And we can just go through it, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think with the daycare one too, just based on my own experience, there's so much turnover at all these daycares right now. They're having a really impossible time finding people. They can't pay them enough,
Right.
you know.
It's really
And I
a
think that's
problem.
indicated in the letter that they submitted.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
It's a
hard.
problem.
Yeah.
And the diesel mechanic thing for those people on Mount Reed, it's impossible to find mechanics.
Right.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Say diesel fitter.
Well, Troy, when we were in school, like I had, I had friends that some were academics and some were not. And those kids went to trade school.
Yeah.
And today, I had 3 boys and some of their friends, clearly were not academics. And those kids ended up going to school to take sports management or something. And now they,
They'll find a job.
and it's funny, they call me, my sons will call me and go, hey, Dad, Billy needs a job, and well, what's he been doing the last
Billy has
5
no
years? And
marketing
he has
skills.
no skills, he's working in a liquor store. He went to Nazareth for 4 years, he's got a degree in sports management and no skills. Like, that kid was better off going to learn HVAC or
Yep.
diesel mechanic or something, he'd be making a great living now. But that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shall we, is there any other business? All right, I'll ask for an
Expedite
adjournment.
For the meeting Tuesday.
I'll motion it.
All right,
Do we
been
wanna
moved
just have
and,
information to-
I think we'll have to
Joy,
schedule another.
you want to second?
Yeah.
You want to second the adjournment?
Second.
Thank you.